Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about compelled diversity. Why? Because, again, as soon as we've got into 2018 now, and you know, different year, but the shit's still the same. But it's interesting because we've had Google now being sued for wrongful dismissal by James Damore, from the author of the now infamous Google diversity memo, as well as another individual who I believe is called David Goodsman. As well as they're also being sued by women over things and over this, that, and the other, and it's the compelled diversity angle that is being adopted by corporations, by governments, by educational facilities, by anyone and everyone that are looking for quotas, that are looking for people to stand out in as part of a group by purely being their diversity hires or hitting their diversity quota when they're ignoring right person for the right place, right job, right goal, whatever. And the thing that stood out to me, the reason why I wanted to come in and actually comment on this, it was a toss up, to be fair, between talking about this now or talking about the whole Oprah 2020 thing, which I might just touch in on at the end of the video, to be fair, just for fun. But in regards to this, I wanted to highlight it because every time we see this, whether it's diversity quotas, whether it's people being sacked because of it, whether it's funding being diverted because it needs to go away from some main cause that affects the majority of people towards a cause that focuses only around a very small number of people, purely on the grounds of diversity, not due to actual need. I'm not talking about things like disability care. I'm talking about, for instance, some of the smaller initiatives within businesses that specifically target individuals that have joined their company from various ethnic backgrounds, who then they attempt to uplift rather than allowing these training courses and things that be to everybody, to anybody that could use them. They only take them from those specific places, whether that person needs the course or not. I've seen a handful of those from when I was working at corporate, not for the most part from the companies I've been working from myself, but from some of the other companies that I've been dealing with through that, or through those other companies. The most recent job that I did just before I left had a couple of questionable things that stood out to me in a kind of grander scale, less to do with what was actually going on site, though, thankfully. And it was a kind of case of looking at it, and every time I came across it, be it in the news with things like the diversity memo, be it or the reported issues around things like Google, YouTube, whoever else, be it the ones that I've seen, be it the diversity and inclusivity stuff in education that also hasn't done anyone any favors in various different ways. As much as all of those things stand out, it also stands out to me that whenever these come up, they always ruin something. Whatever it is that they're trying to do, they never really achieve, they don't do well, they always cause damage. For instance, with James Damore and his diversity memo, where he was highlighting issues around their diversity hiring, their diversity training, the fact that them as Google, as a company that is bigger than God, could very easily work towards improving the situations of everyone on their staff instead of highlighting women or people from ethnic backgrounds or whatever else. They could very easily open that up to everybody to enrich everyone, and yet they weren't. And how expression of opinion was also stifled, as then we saw him get sacked. And yet now they're being sued, and they're being kind of attacked quite harshly. We've seen in YouTube even where their diversity and their openness and their we want all of this leaning towards kid-friendly content that's all politically correct and all this and all that and the other. We've then also seen that though impact YouTube generally, where because of that raised issue that continually gets repeated, we're seeing channels that are completely non-offensive that may very well express opinions or discuss things. If any of you follow me on Twitter, you've seen the number of times that I've tweeted at YouTube with screen caps of the videos that they've stuck the little yellow not advertiser friendly symbol on when the video is Subnautica where I was building a submarine, or Conan Exiles where I was building a house, or the one that always amuses me, the video that I did on forgiveness, I think it was September time last year. Apparently YouTube is against forgiveness from the fact that they demonetized that video for a while anyway. I believe it's currently still monetized. I believe they fixed that issue, but every time it's still happening. Just last week I tweeted another one going, so what was actually wrong with this one then? And I will continue to do so until they actually fix their goddamn system. But again, it's this focus on what offends people. It's this focus on making sure that everybody is represented to an equal level, which then actually demonstrates, if you look at the general demographics, an unequal representation. As with and this is one of the ones that gets brought up a lot as an example, but with Hollywood, and the fact that people go, oh, there isn't enough representation of black actors or of Asian actors or of anyone else of colour in Hollywood. And yet then you look at the United States demographics, like population demographics, against the demographics of actors in Hollywood, and they pretty much match up perfectly, where 70 odd percent are white in both, about 12-15% are black in both, and then the others break down after that. And so it is actually fairly accurate representation within that industry, within that sphere of the population of the country in which that industry resides in. And yet the diversity then continues to spoil stories, to prevent the casting of characters to suit either a new narrative or a different spin on the character, or even something quite clever, as with Ghost in a Shell, where even before the movie was released, you had this huge outcry of whitewashing, when actually that was something that was addressed very, very subtly, and I found quite enjoyably within the movie itself. And so, you've got these highlights on compelled diversity, things that need to happen, quotas that need to be met, and it spoils things. It ruins stories that are told. It ruins the way in which people can actually choose to act between themselves. Yeah, it means that the companies or the organizations that are actually compelling this diversity in the first place through one means or another are actually running themselves into the ground. They're weakening their own staff because they're not choosing the right person for the right job at the right time to get the right job done. They're picking whoever it is that fills that particular quota to make themselves seemingly just feel better, to virtue signal for the rest of the world that this person is part of this quota because we're doing our bit. When surely, especially in regards to Google, which is where I was inspired to start talking about this video, or start making this video rather, earlier this week. It was the issue with Google was its closed-mindedness and the way that it drove out opposing ideas, instantly labelled them as negative in horrific ways when they weren't. I went through the whole memo. I believe I went through it, at least a good chunk of it, on the channel with you guys. Um, and so it's a bit of an issue when you've got this large corporation that's doing so much for the world. It's got Alphabet as its overarching umbrella kind of company that includes Google, YouTube, the what is it, Google X, um, kind of research and development initiatives. All of those that are doing so many impressive and effective things. Google, the most used search engine on the planet. YouTube, a media sharing site of a sort that allows people to actually turn it into a career and allows people like me to reach out for a much larger audience to help as much as to gain feedback from. You know, there's so much to work with around this, and yeah, imagine if instead of when they have made diversity hires, which, judging from the the memo, and judging from some of the other things that have been and gone around YouTube and Google, especially of late, where they've made diversity hires to fit their quotas, or where they have thrown out training specifically to one specific subset, or where they have not acknowledged the differences between people because they don't want to, because the acknowledging of differences between people would then seemingly allow them to slant things, or at least that's what they seem to think they would do, which, if anything, just suggests that maybe then the people who are in charge there, if they would slant it just by acknowledging fact, shouldn't be in charge. But that's a different discussion, really. But it's all of those times that they have wasted money, wasted time, or bought in people who maybe weren't the best but fulfilled their arbitrary quota. Each time they've done that, that's weakening them. And this is probably why, especially with YouTube being the most forward-facing kind of community interactive thing that Google really has, considering Google Plus just didn't really take off. Considering that YouTube is that thing that they have that interacts with people directly the most, considering what we've seen coming out of Google and YouTube of the last year or so, maybe last two, including the diversity memo, including all of these things that are more evidenced at the fact that they just don't know what they're doing, and that they seem to keep getting themselves confused and upset, and upsetting other people as well. Maybe that's why we're finding ourselves in this situation, because they're not hiring the right person for the right job. They're not hiring the most effective teams. They aren't putting them towards the most effective uses, or giving them the right training to allow them to improve things for their customers and for themselves. They're just picking people who fill the boxes, tick the right boxes, instead of do the right job. And as a result, maybe it's no wonder that we're seeing the deterioration of platforms like YouTube, where it's become a spineless kind of platform that is no longer continually trying to enrich itself, but is purely trying to capitalize on big creators whilst crushing smaller ones or newer ones. But as a result, I want to this is something that I definitely want to hear your thoughts on, guys. Diversity, compelled diversity, quotas. Have you experienced it? Because I personally have been, as said, I've seen it from afar, but I've never actually been in a position to, rather unsurprisingly, being white and male, I've never been in a position to observe directly. It's always been a case of, right, they've got that training program and they're looking for this quota to fill. All right, fair enough. That's interesting to hear, but that's not really something that we're engaging with. We're here to talk about this promotion, or we're here to talk about this or that or the other. It's interesting, some of the stuff that gets discussed in passing at the beginnings of meetings and things. But again, it's like, you hear some of that and you're like, okay, they've changed that policy and so this is what they're doing. All right, has it actually benefited them? We can't tell the difference from before they started doing it, so they're not really seemingly seeing much of a benefit from it. Well, that's a bit troubling. What's the point? They're wasting money on it. Well, yeah, but it's what they're doing. It's what they're deciding to do. Why? To signal to everyone that they're good people, and that's all they need to do. Yeah, it's not really the most effective use of time and money. And imagine one of these places that could take on someone that wasn't a diversity hire, or if they focused on just better screening and testing for people who were looking to join their company, then maybe they would find the next big thing that would solve so many of their problems. You know, again, look for the right person to do the right job. Focus on being functional. Don't focus on being a good person or a bad person or anything else. There are limits, follow the limits, but otherwise, just get the job done. Simple. Requires far less energy. Again, don't be lazy, but conserve energy. That's the thing that I keep coming back to in various videos like this, where I'm going, just stop doing this stuff, it will help. But anyway, yeah, I want to know what you guys think about diversity quotas in general, whether or not you've experienced them, you know, anything else like that. Even your thoughts on the whole James Damore suing Google thing and all of the other stuff around that as well. You know, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But otherwise, guys, I'll call it there, because otherwise I think I'm going to start rambling again. On Oprah 2020, by the way, seems like a really bad idea. We've already had one kind of reality TV show host as a president, and that's gone horribly wrong. This cult of personality bullshit is bad. Let's not do this again, please. Let's just get Trump out, get someone else back in who's hopefully just more effective, has better policies. Let's focus on the policies, people. Focus on the policies. Okay, now I'm going to stop rambling, and I will see you in the video tomorrow, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.